And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. We're about to connect with our Amazon Live audience. Hope you guys are having a great day. If you're joining us live, of course, it's Cyber Monday. So you'll be seeing me back a little bit later today as we're going to bring you guys some great deals. I appreciate you guys being with me for Black Friday and Small Business Saturday as well. Had a great time with you guys. If you guys did not get some of the items you were looking for, make sure you guys let me know. Some of them may be on Cyber Monday deal as well. We're going to go ahead and bring in our Amazon Live audience. We have a very special guest that's joining us today. And we welcome you guys on Amazon Live. I am, of course, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us on the platform. If you guys are new to us on Amazon, make sure you guys hit that follow button. You see it here in this corner or down below. You also will see the book by our next guest that made this conversation today possible. We're excited to welcome Cayman Kelly to his first time here on Amazon Live with us. Had a chance to interview Cayman on our radio show, Conversations Live, about this book you guys see here, From $6 an Hour to $1 Million Dream. We're going to talk to Cayman about his successful year, his career. What is it that led him to write the book? We're going to share some nuggets with you guys, but also let you guys know how to stay connected with him. For those joining us on the simulcast on social media, if you guys have any questions or comments for Cayman, we do have the chat open, so feel free to put those in. But Cayman, thank you again for the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Well, look, the pleasure is definitely all mine. We have the book available in paperback and Kindle for our audience on Amazon. You guys will see the paperback is only $10.99 today, so you want to make sure you grab that. Or you can get the Kindle. I'm going to highlight for you guys as well for $6.99. You know, Cayman, you've had such an amazing career. The book is just one part of it. Just looking at 2024, though, man, what has it been like for you to reflect on this year and the great things that's been coming your way?
You know, that's funny that you asked that question because that was one of the questions that I talked about on the air today. I said, now that it's the 12th month of the year, when you look back, this year has been blank. And I had to sit there and ponder it myself. And I told my wife, and I was speaking about it last night. And I said, you know, I don't think it's any different than any other year because every year has its ups and downs. It has its challenges. And, you know, we're at the point where our parents are aging. So it's kind of hurtful to watch them age and decline. But it does make you have a greater appreciation for time that we have on the earth. You know what I mean? Because it's never something that we can guess what's going to happen to us or what kind of traffic we're going to run into on the way to the airport type of thing. Because I don't know whether you and I talked about this or not, but I had a stroke 2 years ago.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, I had a stroke 2 years ago, man. So, and I remember that doctor saying, we found a clot on your brain. It is life-threatening, so we're going to admit you into the hospital. Now, I'm fully recovered, but still at the same token, you know, just to hear news like that, it makes you have a greater appreciation for life, you know, because I work all the time and I just kept working. And while my wife was driving me to the hospital 2 years ago, because I wasn't going to go, I kept thinking to myself, man, I got to be back home by 4 o'clock because I had just picked up a contract with the NHL. And I was constantly thinking about, I got to work, you know what I mean? And it's just it's a bad space to be in because of our business culture. We feel like we got to keep going and going and going and going and going. So having that downtime made me appreciate life even that much more. Wow. So, you know, and back to your original question, what I feel like about this year, 2024, I think it was great. You know, it has its adversities just like anything else, but I choose to pull the positives out of it.
Right. Cayman, I appreciate you sharing that. And no, I did not know about the stroke. So glad that you were able to make a recovery. But I think I was smiling as you were talking because that's what people tell me about always working. But, because we love what we do, it doesn't feel like we're always working. But when you mention about the 4 o'clock, I think about that sometimes, too, when someone asks me to do something like, OK, am I going to be able to make it back? by this have to kind of ponder all of that. Kenneth, hello to you on the Facebook. So I think maybe God had you be able to mention that for my sake too. But Cayman, the thing that's always impressed me about you, and that's why I was so glad to talk with you when this book came out, is that your work ethic, and for people like me that are coming up behind you in this space, we look to people like you to say, okay, one, how did they do it? But two, how did they sustain it? Do you think enough people don't think about the latter part? A lot of times people are looking for that fame and success, but do you think people really understand the work it takes to sustain that success?
I really don't, honestly, because here's the thing, and people call me all the time, and usually it's like, you know, like focus on my voiceover side of my career.
Yeah.
because people think it's an easy thing to get into and they look at it as being some kind of side hustle, but it's not.
Right.
So every time somebody loses a job or something, I was wondering if you could help me put together a voice demo. And before it used to anger me. I'm like, man, you don't know what I've been through to get here. But
Yeah.
now I use it as a teaching moment to help people to understand you can dream as big as you want to. And I think a lot of times when people dream, they think about the reward that's attached to the dream. But
Yeah.
then you start to think about the work that goes into it, and it kind of waters things down and things start to diminish the dream. And then they say, nah, it's easier for me to stay where I am.
Yeah.
Because me, for instance, this is something that I wanted to do for years. The radio side was something that I started doing when I was in the 10th grade. So I had to build up to where I am. And just like the book title says, from $6 an hour to $1 million dream, that's my real life story. I started at $6 an hour was my first gig. Well, first, let's go beyond that. At first, I didn't get paid at all. I did stuff that I didn't want to do to be able to get to do the things that I wanted to do.
Right.
So I went to college. I kept a contact the whole time I was in college. So when I graduated, which came like that, 4 years is not a long time. So now I'm trying to find a job. I couldn't find anything. I started teaching school for a little while. And that wasn't what I wanted to do. Boy, you talk about stress level. And shout out to all the teachers because
Right.
it takes a very special type of person to be a teacher, especially nowadays, man. We dealing with a whole generation of different type of folks. They built different.
Yes.
So even coming off of that, man, and being able to get my first gig, they told me, they wrote down this figure, and I said, what's that for? And they said, this is for the year. It was $6,000 and some odd dollars for the year. Now I'm a college graduate at this point. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I thought I was going to make way more money than this. And it was equated to $6 an hour for 4 hours a day. So it wasn't even like a full 8 hours that I was getting paid for, even though I worked all day. But did I look at that as being a deterrent? Not at all. I needed a stepping stone because I said, if I can get the opportunity, I know I can turn it into something. And that's the advice that I offer to people. Everybody got to have a starting point. Yeah. You can't just look at, we see it now where people blow up on social media like they got their 15 minutes of fame. Yeah. But that's not always the case. So are you willing to endure? The race is not given to the swift, it's to the ones that endure to the end. Right. So all of these hiccups that I had these thoughts that went through my mind like, man, I must be doing the wrong thing. Maybe I chose the wrong thing to do, because it gets in your head. But we got to learn how to turn down the noise and push forward, because the thing is, Cyrus, we don't ever know when that thing is going to pop and who's paying attention, who's watching that can put us in the place that we want to be in. So that's what always drove me. And then you got, and tell me if I'm talking too much, because
you're good.
I got this dual thing.
No, you're good.
Because I started doing voiceovers, and it was something that somebody introduced me to. I didn't even know what voiceovers were. So you talking about in the mid 80s, I saw this guy and I used to witness him on the microphone. He was the voice of a bunch of radio stations. This was before the internet even existed. So he would record on a reel-to-reel, stick them in a FedEx package and mail them all out. So he said, you need to be doing something with your pipes. I was 15, man. I had a deep voice at 15. He said, you need to be doing something with your pipes. And I said, what I need to do? He would never tell me what I needed to do. So it just happened to be ironic, because here's the other thing, Cyrus, we get trapped in doing things that we're comfortable with, and then we don't want to grow. But in order for us to grow, we have to experience some type of pain. That's physically and mentally. When you grow physically, your knees hurt, your joints start to hurt. Same thing with us mentally. We start to feel things. We feel a bit of anxiety. Sometimes we may feel a little depression, but we have to keep pushing through all of that to reach the goal. And the thing is, the reward is always there, and we may not ever see it. Because you think about guys like Mozart and Beethoven, here we are studying them centuries later. Yeah. They don't know that. They gone. But their work precedes them. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with us. This guy tells me to do this. I didn't start doing voiceovers till years later. I didn't know what to do. I would Google stuff. I didn't know who could help me. And it took me to lose a job. My wife and I had just gotten married. We built a house. We watched this thing from the ground. I saw him put the foundation in. We over there taking pictures and everything. So that we spent the night after we went to settlement. The next day I got a call that my job was folding up. And I said, oh my God. But I wasn't even fearful because I had another job lined up. I thought I would fall right into that. That didn't work. So now I'm facing a point where I have to produce. So I think that was a blessing in disguise because it forced me to unlock my potential. Because now I got to do something. I can't stay in my comfort space anymore because now I don't have no money and I got these big bills I got to pay.
Right.
So it increased my drive. But then, looking back, and I call it connecting the puzzle pieces, because now I see that I had to be here so I could learn this lesson to get here. And then I could put these things together. Now I can get here because where I ended up at, Cyrus, years ago, I ended up at BET on my journey. I was doing radio. It was a third-party channel for XM satellite radio, which was a new technology at the time. That lasted for a year, but in that process, I met so many people. That's the value of a network. And they would come to me and say, can you voice something for us? And I said, yeah. That's how I got my voiceover career birthed.
Earl Hall, speaking of voiceover artists, we have one that's just joined us on Facebook. Hey, Earl. Earl says VO Pro. He says, love this. And what you said is so funny. You and I had not talked to, and this is the great thing about these conversations, because I just invited Cayman to come on the show. We didn't talk about what direction the conversation would go in, but something that you said led me to chapter 6 of your book, Cayman. Again, for those who are just coming in, make sure you guys do click at the book on the Amazon side and the carousel. For those joining us on the social media sites, we have the link there. It's From $6 an Hour to $1 Million Dream by Cayman Kelly. You say this in chapter 6 of the book, Cayman, loyal all the way, literally going along with what you just said in your subtitle, Be Loyal to Your Dream. You said, nobody grows when they stay in the same place. Absolutely. And when you were talking about being comfortable, I've experienced that for myself. A lot of times when you find something that is comfortable, even though it may be stunning, you just stay with it because, hey, you're good, right? But I love the fact that after you talk about integrity, you talk about the importance of making sure that we are being loyal to the dream as we go along. What do you think has helped you to keep that loyalty for yourself? Because you've done so much, Cayman, including with this book. What do you think has helped you to stay loyal to the dream, even in the challenging times?
Yeah, I think it just boils down to mindset. We have to make choices. Like, what are we going to do? And just like that subtitle on that book, your decisions determine your outcome.
Yeah.
So and I felt like I wanted to stick with this. This is something I always wanted to do. And then, like me having my downtime a couple of years ago, we don't know how much time we have, So when we have a purpose with our lives, it makes life that much more spicy to me. Like we can live and be fruitful. We can bless other people, because I don't think we get blessed just to keep it to ourselves. And I think that's what drives me now, because I'm a people person. I like helping other people. So when people call me, I'm going to give you the real. Like, tell me, can you put a voiceover demo together? I'm going to tell you the struggles first. Let's talk about what it took for me to get here. Let me talk about how I couldn't afford to get on Amtrak and I had to catch the Greyhound. You know what I mean? And people laying down in the seat and I ain't had nowhere to sit. Let's talk about those days. Let's talk about those days when I had to be creative in the streets and try to figure out how I was going to eat. I was broke, but it wasn't a deterrent. Because that's $6 an hour. When I got that check, man, it wasn't nothing on that thing. So I had to make a decision whether I was going to put some gas in the car to go to work or whether I was going to get me something to eat.
Yeah.
I learned how to be creative with what I had, because I was driving a station vehicle around. So they was like, ooh, you got any T-shirts? What you got for me? So I ate like that. And them T-shirts became money.
Yeah, right. And now here you are with, your own show. It's heard around the world. Cayman, again, being able to share your insights and wisdom, of course, in speaking. You have this book. Do you when you look back at those times that you were talking about, being a teacher with the $6 an hour, do you still have those wow moments at this part in your career?
I do. Man, and it's so surreal. I still talk about that to this very day. Just the things that I do and the amount of money that I get. I'm like, I get paid to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the way things just started rolling, I picked up ESPN radio as a voiceover artist. And, like I'm doing stuff that I never thought I would do, even though I was told no so many times that I never thought it would really pan out.
Right.
But if you start to look at life, we get told no way more than we get told yes. That's what makes the yes so sweet.
Right.
Because if you go back to radio, like in '94, I got my promotion gig. So this is my $6 an hour job. So I'm walking through the hallways and my boss stopped me one day. He said, dude, you want to work? I said, yeah. I don't know what he's talking about, but yes was the right answer to me.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, go home and get some rest. You're on the air tonight. It happened just like that. Being on the air was my goal. So we talk about in the same year, Cyrus, '94, I graduated from college. I got my promotions job. I learned how to run the board. So I was doing all of this and people was fighting between departments to use me because I was good at what I did.
Yeah.
Then I got the opportunity to go in the street and do a call in from a location. I was making up stories off the top of my, they was like, man, you sound great out in the streets. So that's how I got my gig. I got on the radio like that.
Yeah.
And, like it's so many life lessons that we learn. And one of the most valuable lessons that I learned from him, we were doing a review one day. And he said, dude, you're a great guy. Everybody loves you, but your follow-up is weak.
Mm.
And I said, what you mean by that? And he said, well, you've been doing overnights. That was a 2 to 6 a.m. position that I was doing. I was on the air then. You've been doing this for a couple months now. And never once have you come to me and pitched to me that you wanted full time. Wow. But my thought was, if I do a good job, you're going to come to me and offer it to me. He said, no. If you don't speak up for yourself, we run right over you. And that was one of the most valuable lessons that I've learned. And it's like, and I don't care what you do. It's the same thing across the board. Just like we talked about in business culture, people use you for what you're good for.
Yeah.
Once you don't have that to offer, all right, we'll see you. You're replaceable.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made me feel like I had to keep going. Even when I got sick and I was like, man, I got to be home at 4:00. Because I had just got the contract with NHL. I did not want to disappoint.
Right.
And I think it's that much more with being African-American. We feel like we got to go above and beyond to do more to even be seen.
Yeah.
So that's why I felt like I could never take a break. And, ESP, when I got ESPN radio, I became the first African-American voice on any sports radio network in America.
Wow.
So, just accomplishing things like that. But I felt like I couldn't celebrate it. Mm-hmm. I got to get to the next thing.
Yeah. That brings us to an interesting part of the book. Campus Ian, good to be able to see you as well. Also over on IG, hello to you, Faces and Phases. Good to be able to see you. Glad you could join us as well. Helen, hello to you over there on IG as well. If you guys are just coming in, we're speaking to, you guys can already see him, so you know who it is. Cayman Kelly is here with us. You know him, of course, from radio. He's a best-selling author of this book we have here, From $6 an Hour to $1 Million Dream. Also, he's a great motivational speaker. He's already, I know, motivating some of you in what he's sharing. But you talk about something interesting. Even though the dream has to be ours, we have to be true to it. Cayman, you talk about it in the book, and I want to talk about this because I think this is important too, about the importance to realize we don't do this alone. You say this in the book: your dreams won't become reality if you walk alone. You need someone to motivate you when you fall into slumps and feel like you don't have the strength to go any further. You need someone to recognize your gifts and to take a chance on you. There's always a starting point for everything you do in life, and those starting points can turn into a robust network of opportunities. And then you ask the question, what opportunities are in front of you? So talk about that for you. How important has it been for you? Because you're not just talking about yes men. You're talking about people that can motivate you, hold you accountable. You talk about this in the book as well. How important has that support system been to your success?
Oh my gosh, man, it's everything. It is everything. Just like I just gave the example of my first program director that said, dude, your follow-up is weak. Mm-hmm. He was straight to the point.
Yeah.
Don't lie to me. You don't grow that way when somebody just tells you what you want to hear.
Right.
You know what I mean? So him telling me that, and that was 30 years ago when I heard that message. I still live by that to this day. So, those networks are very important. I couldn't put myself in position. The things that I've done built me up to the place where I've gotten. So you just think if I sat back and I give you this example. I was talking to Will Packer one day, a filmmaker. We were doing this interview, him and Malcolm Lee. Malcolm put me in he put me in Barbershop, The Next Cut. I was the voice all throughout that movie. This all comes from networking.
Yeah.
So we're talking one day and this guy asked a question. He said, how do you get Hollywood to pay attention to you? And Will said, "You're doing all the right things." The guy had a webisode on Facebook. He said, "Because as much as I love my people, the one thing I hate about us is that somebody will come like put me on, but they haven't done anything. When I ask them, what have you done? They
Yeah.
haven't done anything, which is why I took the time to invest in myself. I wasn't asking for handouts.
Right.
I was going to auditions and I spent money to go to auditions, not knowing whether I was going to get the gig or not. But if I didn't show up, I would never know whether I got it or not. So one thing leads to another. So all of these years that I built this stuff in the background, those same properties landed me ESPN radio because somebody saw an ad that I was doing. They said, "Oh, you voiced this. I thought you would be a great voice for this." So that's how networking is so important, and keeping those wheels turning, because like I said, we're gonna get a lot of no's, and don't always look at the big things as being the end all be all.
Right.
Take those small things, build up too. You know what I mean? We so busy kicking over the acorns, not realizing that acorns grow in the oak trees.
Right. Yeah. You just said something interesting. Mike, hello to you. I'm glad you could join us over there on YouTube, because you talk about that in the book too, and just was reminded of it as you were talking there about looking at failures differently. Because I think a lot of times, a lot of people, Cayman, as you know, they get that no and it crushes them. They get that
Hmm.
critique and it crushes them. Instead of seeing how they can be able to use that, what do you think helped you to change your perspective? Because it really is a mindset shift. What helped you to change your perspective on the no and the door that seems to shut?
You know what, man? And I could take this all the way back to my childhood because I grew up shy and I was bullied a lot.
Mm,
I always got bullied. And people ask me all the time, how did you rise above that? I had to. I didn't have any other choice. Being I got teased about how deep my voice was.
mm,
So, like part of that was fuel for me.
mm,
I'm gonna show you something different. I'm gonna show you. So, like I always had this drive where I was determined to get to that next level, whatever that may be for anybody. Success means something different to everybody.
right.
I'm at a point where like I wanted to be the best father that I could be for my children.
Mm,
So I created a lane of flexibility. The money was something that was added later.
sure.
It wasn't always about the money because I made a lot of sacrifices too to be that father because I tried to meet a lot of uh, um, jobs and things. Nobody really offered me anything. So, sometimes we get caught up in looking at what everybody else has, but that's not really
Right.
for us. So I
Right.
used to be like, man, how come he get a call? Don't nobody ever call me. I think I'm talented too, you know. So one thing that happened, somebody offered me an afternoon drive position, but my kids were young, and I was trying to figure out how I could make this thing fit into my life, and it was stressing me out like nobody's business. I'm like, man, how can I do this? Because I really wanted to do it because I hadn't gotten any other offers before. But 3 to 7 p.m. was a critical time in my household because I was the one with the flexibility. My wife's a physician. She worked in the emergency room.
Mm,
So the kids had to be taken care of. So somebody said, you can get a nanny. I don't want to get a nanny. I said, because that would take my kids would pay more attention to the nannies than they do their own parents. So I didn't want that route. And I'm gonna tell you, man, I sat down. I had gone to this workshop called Is Your Family Worth Fighting For?
mm,
And when I opened my book and I started reading, all the answers were right there. And I had an attorney, and she wasn't money hungry. She had all the money she needed. Because the first time I went in her house, I didn't even want to sit down. That place was immaculate. I was like, oh my God, it looked like a museum in there. Denzel called. I was like, wow. When she looked at my contract, Cyrus, she was like, I don't know how you gonna pay me.
oh boy.
But it took like people like her because she said, man, I like you. And she said, I think you have a lot of potential. I'm gonna work with you.
Wow.
So when this situation came up, she said, don't try to always chase the money. She said, your wife's happy, your family's happy. It's not all about the money all the time. That'll come later. And I took that advice. And then I'm gonna tell you what happened to me because life has a funny way of teaching lessons. Bad as I wanted that thing, I cooked dinner one night. I put the dinner on the table. My daughter was small then. And she said, thanks, Dad. You're the best daddy in the world.
Mm,
Man, I turned around and faced the counter. I started crying. And that's, like that's what made me realize this is
Yeah.
where I'm needed most.
Yeah.
I can't chase a job. So
Hmm.
so like I have no regrets about those sacrifices that I made because things ended up working out anyway. It just
Yeah.
takes patience. It takes time.
Right.
So we can't we live in an era of microwaves now. Before microwaves existed, them
Hmm.
old folks put pots on the stove if you had leftovers. Everybody was forced to kind of eat together once the food is warm. Now everybody can take a portion and just warm it up. So it's a microwave which created instant gratification for us, but none of this
Right.
stuff is instant. We
Right.
all have stepping stones. We all have starting points that we have to start at. It's kind of like, man, I just saw a dude yesterday. Somebody tell you such and such died. I just saw him yesterday. It don't take a long time to die
That's right. So true.
when it
Cayman,
starts raining.
yeah, Cayman, this has been an amazing conversation. And like I said, I wanted you to come on because I wanted to be able to talk about this book because I felt like the book was so timely. But I think even outside the book, just this conversation with you sharing a bit of your journey is going to help somebody as
Yeah.
we're wrapping up this year and people are thinking about the future and thinking about their dreams. I do want to say though, for those who are just hearing about the book, what do you hope when they pick it up? What do you hope the book does for them?
Just what you said. I hope it blesses somebody's life, man. Excuse me. My whole goal, because people always told me when I used to go speak on panels and things, man, you should write a book. But I never really thought my story was all that interesting. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Because I came from a household, I had both of my parents in the house. I never struggled with substance abuse or alcohol abuse or any of that stuff. I
Yeah.
wasn't in the streets. I didn't have a rag to riches story.
Right.
So I never thought it was interesting until I really started to sit back and think. And I was like, you know what? Everybody has a story to tell.
Right.
And then it just kind of hit me one day. And I talked to some people and I talked to a guy that does books. And he said, what is your return on investment? And I said, well, I really wanted to garner some attention to get some more business. And I said, then I want to inspire a generation of people that's coming behind me. He
Hmm.
said, dude, that's two different books. So when I hung up the phone, I was confused. I said, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do now. And here's another life lesson for you. I had talked to this class 5 years prior to me putting out this book. One of those students had reached out to me and he said, Mr. Kelly, I remember some of the things that you told me and I was inspired by it. And I just want to get a refresher, like a motivator if we have time to talk. And I said, call me. So it happened. The bit of irony comes in because he called me like right after I hung up with this book person
Hmm.
and we talked for about an hour. And right before he got off the phone, he said, thank you so much, Mr. Kelly. I'm about to go start on my dream. He said, when I graduated, I moved to South Korea because I was teaching English. He said, now I just got back to the States and I really want to pursue what it is that I want to do, not just settle. Man, when I hung up the phone, it clicked. And I was like, you know what? I said, he think I blessed him, but he actually blessed me because
Right.
now it gave me clarity that this is what I'm supposed to write this book for, to
Right.
inspire not just young people, but older people who think they feel trapped. They go to a job that they hate every day. And I
Mhm.
think everybody's life has a purpose. We just have to find what that purpose is. And
Right.
it makes living feel like it's worthwhile, because I'm always in the space of living the best life that you can live. That's why if you listen to me on the radio, I don't talk about other people's drama. We all got enough drama. And by the time I talk about it, you done heard it 80 times anyway. Because we got the internet, you know what I mean? So I'm looking for
Right.
things that can be a betterment to people's lives.
Right.
Let's live the best lives that we can, because my message is authenticity and individuality, which is not pushed enough in our society, because we think everybody's supposed to be just alike. And if you don't fall in this box, you're doing it wrong. But I can pick up so many examples of people who have never had an award, but they're living their best lives.
Right.
Some friends of mine own a toy company, Melissa and Doug. She's outsold just about any toy manufacturer, never got an award for anything, but she's living her best life out of the box. You know what I mean? And that's the way I've always thought. I was always different. And that's why I was teased as such, because nobody understood me.
Right.
So that's what I hope people pick up the book and find some kind of guidance that makes your life better. That's the end goal. I ain't got to make $1 million off the book. I could care less, man. I just want somebody to pick it up, and if it blesses one person, my job is done.
That's right. Well, you've definitely achieved that job, Cayman, and we appreciate that. Again, everyone, Cayman Kelly has been our guest. The book you guys see here, From $6 an Hour to $1 Million Dream, available right here on Amazon. You can get it either in paperback again for $10.99. I'm going to highlight it again for you guys, or for $6.99 for the Kindle edition. Cayman, I appreciate this time, and let them know how to stay connected with you and listen to you on the radio.
Well, I'm on Sirius XM Heart and Soul Monday through Friday from noon to 6 p.m. Eastern time. I'm on Instagram. That's my favorite social media platform, at Cayman Kelly, which is right there, CaymanKelly, or on Facebook like that. I don't use X, but Cayman Kelly on Instagram or Facebook.
Well, Cayman, appreciate you being generous with your time, man, and looking forward to have you back on the program again.
Yes, sir. I'll be back tomorrow. This was fun. I appreciate you, man.
More than welcome. Hello to you, to Kenya. Good to be able to see you. She said she truly enjoyed this interview. Appreciate you listening over there on Facebook. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. You all take care.